What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Sweat Equity, the first episode of 2025. What we're going to do is, originally we didn't plan on doing this, or we planned on doing this and then we nixed the idea, but we want to do a little bit of a recap of our year, some of our learnings, our highs, our lows, things that we're looking forward to, and kind of give you guys a BTS. We talk about that all the time. I think it's important for us to do that for the people that actually care and invest their time into us and what we do,
Yep,
for us to be able to talk about it here.
for
So,
sure. And give you an opportunity to look into our heads in terms of like how we're building our businesses.
yeah,
A lot of stuff is actively changing on the whole landscape. And I think, you have to be able to adjust. And something that people have been asking me a lot recently is how do you spot opportunity? And so I kind of want to walk through that framework too, because I think both of us saw opportunity with our businesses in
yeah.
2024, jumped on it, probably spent a lot of time on those opportunities, and now are thinking, is that really the best opportunity for me, or should I expand into something else that's maybe a little higher upside? So, and then also, you're still trying to grow on social. I'm starting to grow on social as much as I can, like in the short term. So, learnings from that too, I think will be really helpful for people because a lot of folks are kind of stuck in the mud.
Couldn't agree more. I want to start with, this is what I think every founder should do with their team or with their co-founder. And so we just came, nice,
That was good.
nice.
Yeah.
We just came back from an Airbnb yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening. And so John and I, we rented an Airbnb on Lake Austin
Mhm.
for the last 2 days or 2 nights, three full days, right? And the whole goal was, hey, we've never done this in the past, John. We need to sit down and we need to fully align on what we're trying to accomplish, right? Marketing Examine at its infancy was a side hustle of, hey, I have this newsletter, I have a big list here, I can monetize it, we can make some money. Hey, if we go full time on this, this can be something big. Marketing Examine has evolved significantly since that stage. But the thing is, John and I have never like aligned on what we're trying to accomplish as we build this. We've always just like kind of done it and continued to grow it. And then we pivoted hard this year drastically, in June, and that changed the entire trajectory of the company.
Well, and real quick, tell people what the pivot was.
I'm gonna get
Okay.
into the
Okay.
pivot.
Cool. Yeah.
But the whole point of this the whole point of renting this Airbnb was, okay, I have 6 things, John, that I want to sit down. We're going to figure out, we're going to bring the whiteboard and we're going to figure out together. We're going to essentially just obsess over these 6 things for the next 2 days. And we're going to leave here starting the year knowing exactly what we're going to execute from Q1 to Q4, from the roadmap, et cetera. And so we went into it with this game plan. We were going to establish the goals, revenue goals, growth goals, all of that. We're going to then determine the roadmap. Third, hiring. The third aspect was roles, responsibilities, and hiring. Who was going to do what? How was that going to get done? And who we're going to be able to hire to do that. Fourth is budget and finances, understanding where we're going to apply money to, where we're going to pull back from. Fifth was growth and marketing. And then the sixth was essentially big swings. If we want to take Roba's term, moonshot marketing, what are we going to do there? This was the best 2-3 days for us I think we've ever had, because in the past, like, we've had somebody else come in as part of the team and run operations, and John, in my opinion, is like has the strongest hold on operations. Like, he really understands how to build very, very good operations, and he's obsessed with doing so. And so this was the first time that we've sat down and we've like whiteboarded together, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, here's why, here's how we're going to get there, at least our theory of doing so. Are a lot of these things going to change? Yeah, but the North Star won't change, which I think is what's huge. And so being able to sit down and like both understand what the goal is. And so now when we hire somebody, we know, okay, that's because of this. We're
Hmm.
trying to accomplish this. When we're investing 10, 20, $30,000 into content, it's because of this. Having that alignment, even though we're just a day in, I think is going to pay extreme dividends to what we'll accomplish this year. I think the next layer, though, is you can't just do this at the beginning of the year. I think you have to do this at the end of every quarter.
Yeah.
I think at the end of Q1, we're going to have to look again, reflect on Q1, reflect on this exercise and, essentially 2-day thing that we did, and say, hey, are we on track? Are we doing this? Have we been accomplishing this? But what I will say is, if you have leaders on your team, I highly advise you do this. When I talk to people at Jocko's team, they do this. I believe it's like on a quarterly basis. They get like a cabin that one of them owns, and they go to that cabin, and like the leadership team is there,
I feel like
and
they
they
just
just
ice
align.
fish. They just
Yeah,
like
they just
drill a
ice
hole
fish.
in the ice and just start plucking out salmon and eating
They
it
just
raw.
plunge and have all their meetings in the ice cold water.
For sure. Just shoot an elk while they're at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best thing you can do. It's a luxury of having co-founders. That's one of the nice things that you have. And then to just bring it into my situation and anyone who's a solo founder, you know, having those reconciliation periods with yourself and just being like, well, you know, where am I investing cash? Where am I putting, you know, human capital resources in as well? Because, you know, so I run a growth marketing through content agency, and what has always been a challenge there, and this is just something you can only learn a lot of these things through actually doing.
Yeah.
You can only find insights through trying and,
Yeah.
you know, being in the trenches, which is the dumbest phrase of all time. Sorry.
I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, I might have to cancel myself. But like, you know, one thing I learned was just the importance of product market fit.
Yep.
And what that looks like for a brand, particularly on a unique platform like TikTok Shop, for example, and how even if you're making great content, you might not have an offer that resonates with the demographic that's on that platform. Specifically, TikTok Shop is high value or low risk, as we've talked about before. And so you're looking at all these brands that I'm looking at all these brands I worked with over the summer, and it's clear that if I had merchandised them differently, then we would have had more success. And it's a lot cheaper for me to hire someone who is an e-commerce growth expert or e-commerce manager, someone who understands pricing and like offer stuff and conversion rate optimization. It's a lot cheaper for me to hire that person for 80 to 100K and amortize the cost over all of our different clients than lose clients after 3 months.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to, those things come to you almost like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Unless you do this reconciliation thing where you look at your strengths, weaknesses, and try and understand like where you're deficient.
Couldn't agree more. And it is one of the benefits of having a co-founder, because it's hard to do this by yourself because you only have one POV.
For sure.
John has the POV of like, Alex, I know your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I know the things that you're never a part of because you're so focused here. And so therefore, when you say, hey, we should be doing this, I could look at it from the other lens and be like, no, we shouldn't. Or yeah, we should, but it's not going to be able to happen unless you start doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So,
And trust, trust in that co-founder to hold you accountable, because I have no one to hold me accountable, and it shows. I'm wilding out every time. No one's looking at that Amex bill but me. So I just pay that bitch. It doesn't matter. But, and that's actually really unproductive. I've started to have my accountant chirp me, Nehemiah, shout out Nehemiah. I'm like, dude,
it's my accountant too.
Yeah. It's all of our accountant. The sweat equity.
Yeah. The sweat equity
accountant. But, man, it's like, tell me when I'm spending on dumb stuff, like highlight that, because I just shaved like $2,000 a month in costs on like random shit that I was not using in my day to day. And if you think about your budget, you should think about it in the same way that we think about copywriting. So the way that we think about copywriting is in the rule of thirds, where you write your initial draft, cut it by a third, and then once you have that second draft, cut it by another third, so that you can force maximum clarity into your words. You should be doing that with your budget. You should be looking at, okay, I can cut this. This is not like, and force yourself to go trim a third of your budget. And then you should look at it again and ask, is this really necessary? This is really necessary. And that's across people, services, subscriptions, whatever.
I've never been somebody that has budgeted well.
No.
And I think you and I probably have similar spending habits where like we see it, want it, and therefore we buy it.
Yes.
Kind of thing. The last 6 months it's hard because I've been coming on here with the same fits, bro. I haven't been buying shit.
Everyone's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kidding. But I really haven't been spending, because that's somewhere where I'd spend thousands of dollars. I wouldn't say every month, but
for sure,
fairly often I'm spending thousands of dollars on like shoes, pants, like, just a pair of jeans that we're getting is like $300.
Yeah, it's extremely irrational behavior.
And it's stupid to kind of think about it, because we're not at that point where, that's a good, that doesn't matter.
I got ALD taste with Abercrombie budgets. It's not good. I got to rein that in.
A few other highs and lows from the weekend. Lows. I got a house on the lake because I wanted to fish. Didn't catch a damn thing. And I am very good at fishing. I have fished my entire life. I've caught hundreds of fish.
Sure, man.
I know. Didn't catch a single thing.
Yeah, I mean your
Didn't catch a
record
single
is
thing.
your record is your record, right? Like now you're in public saying that you just went over on the
I
fishing
did. I
trip.
went over. The highest of highs was this $20 fake snake that I bought. And I pranked, because we're in the hill country, you know what I mean? So it's like it's known for snakes.
Yeah, you're on high alert
Yeah. You just naturally, like, you're stepping a little different.
for sure.
The amount of, I pranked everybody that stayed. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had some of our friends come in for like at least New Year's night and like ring it in with us. And I got everybody. John was the worst by far. Froze. I don't know if you ever watched New Girl, but like this man he saw the snake, remote control snake, hit the corner, froze, hit this moonwalk, yelled. It was, and we will say, I got you about
You got
30
me
minutes.
20 minutes ago.
30 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Alex literally walks into the office, tells me that there's a snake infestation in the neighboring office. I buy it, first of all, and I just write it off, say, okay, sure. And then next thing I know, he goes, oh, look at that, right by my foot, big ass snake. Now, if you're a real Sweat Equity podcast listener, you know my ankle's been hurting for a little bit. And I moved fast.
Bro, you was moving.
I got to the door in maybe 0.5 seconds. I mean,
0.5 seconds.
Yeah, backpedal too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, extra hard for the high ankle sprain. That's sick. I think more people, the offsite was this thing that really emerged in, I would say, like 2022, 2023. Yeah. As a founder now who, the bank account is one with me, I cannot fathom that people actually were spending that much money on offsites.
Yeah.
But certainly for the executive team, like it's good to gather in person and be in a relaxed environment, be in a thinking environment.
It costs us like $1,500. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
it's so worth it.
That's a no-brainer. But if you looped in, 8 other team members, all of a sudden you're talking about 10 racks, and it's just in the name of culture. So you and the squad can play Cards Against Humanity, and is weird.
100%.
So that's cool. That's cool.
Let's switch it up. I'm gonna ask you what were the biggest learnings of 2024 for you?
So, for sure, one of the biggest learnings and painful learnings for me was the importance of expectation setting. So in any sort of services arrangement, whether it's, agency life, whether you're a software company, like what you're communicating to people that you're going to do for them has to be accurate. And you also have to follow through on that in the first 6 weeks. Sounds obvious. People would be absolutely horrified at how much that doesn't happen. I think about that from the lens of internal communication, where I say, hey, I need this done by this date. It's not done by that date. There's no notice provided to me. A big thing with all of our different brands has been, TikTok's cold start on TikTok Shop in particular is really it's challenging. Like it's about a 6-week ramp up. And so oftentimes clients have paid their first 2 invoices before they're starting to see ROI on my service. And there's 2 ways that you can look at that. Number one is, okay, well, I'm going to tell them it's going to be 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I just had an experience this morning, actually, where a client he's got his second invoice and he cut it. And he was like, well, we didn't do enough in month 1. We delivered every single thing we agreed upon in the contract. We communicated up front. We did everything on our end. It was exactly what I told him on the sales call. I said, it's likely going to be 6 weeks before we get to revenue here. And to not to revenue, but to like 50,000 a month, so that you're feeling good about this. And it falls on deaf ears. A lot of brand owners are manic, crazy people. Yeah. That's why they're delusional enough to start something. And so that also causes them to be very reactionary and impulsive. And, it's like some of my bigger brands, they understand that stuff's going to take time. And so that expectation setting process is really easy. But with something like this, I'm realizing that if it's someone under like 15 million a year in revenue, especially solo founders / like CEOs of those brands that like hold with an iron fist all the power, it's always on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And you just have to understand, it's one of the biggest lessons I learned at Spellbound was the email marketing platform. It was my last job that I'll ever have, which is kind of sick. But Spellbound was always the first thing to get cut in any budget situation. They're lowest totem pole. It's not producing, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
And so where I'm finding with my service as a learning is, even despite expectation setting being something that like is done properly, if your service is not absolutely critical, you're really not building that great of a business,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not sticky enough.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be cuttable.
Yeah.
And where it's showing up in my P&L is basically like, say I have, 14 to 17 brands at any given moment. I'm acquiring 3 to 5 brands every month, or every 2 months, but I'm also churning 3 to 5 brands every 2 months.
Yeah.
And so I'm just in this choppy waters where you're either, you're doing really well, but then like unexpected churn happens and now there's pressure. And I know that I'm going to get a new client in the next 2 weeks. Someone's just going to come in through the ether, because that's what happens when you create content. But I can't invest in growth because my offer is not sticky enough. And so that's been something that I'm really thinking about right now, is how do I become stickier? But yeah, so I mean, that's been a big thing. And then to build on that point about being sticky, I want to quickly talk about product market fit, because I've been in businesses that have struggled. For example, Spellbound, again, not to drag it, but like, we did not have product market fit. It was not something that every brand felt like they needed. It was like a cool tool.
Yeah.
And TikTok Shop as an offer was absolutely product market fit. Like, I had overwhelming demand. Like, it feels like product market fit feels like sales is on easy mode. And too many people don't understand that your idea is bad, and that's why you don't have product market fit. It's not like you need to tweak something or be a better marketer or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of businesses just don't need to exist. And so like product market fit is a clear feeling, I think, rather than this thing that you seek. Like I don't think people can actually build towards product market fit as much as they think. I think when you have it, it's very clear, because stuff just comes very easily, and your problems are much different. Your problems are like what I'm describing, where it's like you're not sticky, or your pipeline, your business operations internally are not smooth enough, but sales should not be the problem.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think there was somebody who said this, where like, if you're asking if you have product market fit, then you don't have it.
Correct.
And I'm very aligned with you, where with services, it has to be something that they're looking at the list of services, different agencies that they're working with, and they're like, we can't cut that one.
Right.
Like, we need that. And there was a learning curve, I think, with us, as well as like we pivoted. And again, I'll talk about that, but like as we pivoted, and this happens naturally, where you just want to take everybody on because you need revenue in the door.
Right.
And I think that's good, because one of my biggest learnings was only going after our ICP, or our ideal customer profile, and only taking leads, and even our messaging only like filtering for those kinds of people, right? So at first when we pivoted in this idea of like essentially creating playbooks for brands and strategies for brands and then helping them execute it, originally we were going to take anybody on. If you were SaaS, if you were in beauty, it didn't matter what brand you were, we were going to take you on. We've now pivoted to, or not pivoted, we now only focus on health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, like brands that they seem like cousins more than completely different, like relatives and family and all that shit. And that has been the biggest thing for us, because now when we're on a sales call and it's a fitness related product or health wellness, and I say, hey, we only work with these kinds of brands, and then we tell them brands that they almost like aspire to be like, that we work with.
Yeah.
It changes the dynamic drastically on that sales call. But I agree, like sales isn't the hard part. Like ops and making sure we're sticky enough is the hard part.
Well, and that's a natural challenge for both of us, where the leads come from our personal brands, and so they're expecting to work with you, and the quality of work that is supposed to be associated with that is it's a difficult standard to meet, because obviously if you hired me to come in and be your head of growth, that would probably result in some good stuff. The challenge is I have 14 other head of growth roles that I'm kind of working with at any given time. And so you're naturally going to see attrition as you deliver that. And that's where I also think we struggle probably mutually, is like the systems part, where it's like building those systems is actually most of your job rather than like just being a marketer.
Yeah.
And it's like more so being an operator. And it's had me unlock a huge level of respect for other CEOs that are, really effective. Whereas before, I think if you told me, CEOs make 40x the average employee or whatever, I'd have been like, should be like 20.
Yeah.
But
now you understand the
now
40.
I'm like, it actually should be like 200x because the person like driving the boat, driving the ship is the only one that actually really, really matters in a lot of these situations. Yep. So it's all stuff that you really can't even understand. You can know it, but you don't understand it until you live it.
Biggest learnings for me this year were people and culture.
Yeah.
That was a huge learning for me where at the beginning of 2024, our overhead was like 80 to 90,000, something like that, close to that.
Yeah, you were wild.
And
this office had too many motherfuckers.
Too many motherfuckers. And
God damn.
The reason for that was I wanted to hit a specific number, and so I just hired and brought on people to help hit those numbers versus really searching for the right person. Mm-hmm. And finding the right person that not only would help us get to that number, they would elevate everybody in here. And then they would also, I don't want to say make work fun, but they would bring a certain personality or vibe or like intensity to the office that elevated everybody else. Yeah. And we didn't have that. Outside of, I would say, myself and John, like we just didn't have that to the level that I would have wanted. And it starts with me. It starts with me and funnels down. But what I will say is there were weeks, months where like we could be executing at this highest level and the people that were paying a good amount of money from just aren't producing. Yeah. And they're not matching that intensity level. And that's super frustrating. And so now, we're back and we're hiring some folks. It's like, no, we're actually like making sure we're hiring the right person. Yep. And not only like running them through assessments and whatnot. It's like, not just would I hang out with this person, but like, would you have a fight and call this person? Like, would you, if you had to figure something out in the next 24 hours that was huge, would that person help you and help you accomplish it? Because you need that kind of culture in a company like the ones that you and I are building. Yeah. Especially like, and you have to have a lot of people that are down for the mission. They have to understand the mission and they have to want to accomplish that. And we had too many people that wanted a great paycheck and just felt like they had the skills to be able to hit a number, and that was it. Yeah. Whether I do this or not, I want to have people on my team that I can brainstorm and text on the weekend with. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, what do you think about this idea? And you just go about it because you love the game. And we didn't have enough people that loved the game. They wanted to like tinker in our game so they could get paid and then go run their own game and do their own thing. And for me, that was a huge, huge learning curve this year because it cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, quite frankly, like a lot of money. Yeah. That was the first one. The second one, I'll say it's two parts because this one plays off the last one. Intensity and hunger. I think intensity is the most important and vital aspect of any startup or of any company that somebody's building is intensity. When John and I were at the Airbnb, yes, we were like taking our time doing things, but then when we were like, okay, we're going to set the timer for the next hour and do X, Y, Z, we got it done. When in the last month and a half that we've been, or 2 months that we've been like the leanest we've ever been, we've accomplished the most we've ever accomplished. Why? It wasn't like we got even more, we got more efficient, but really the intensity level went from a 5 to a 10, 11, right? And and that just drove everything, whether it was how our designers produce content, how it was like our EA getting things done that day. When people would say, hey, like, I'll get this to you Monday, but it's Thursday. I was like, no, just get it to me today. Mm-hmm. When a client would be like, hey, let's talk tomorrow about XYZ. Hey, can I call you right now? That intensity level has shifted the entire culture with our team, where now everybody is doing so much more, so much better, and so much faster. Yeah. Again, what I'm realizing is, and I've always known this, but you have to be the example of the person doing that. you, me, like we have to be at the forefront, just being like raising the intensity level every single day. Because if you think about it, if every week there was like 2 to 3 scenarios where on a Thursday somebody was like, hey, I'll get to that Monday, and you're like, no, let's get to it today. At the end of the year, how many days do you save?
For sure.
And how many tasks do you get completed within that time frame?
That's all I could think about
That
with
was huge for
this
me.
is the importance of, yes, intensity and mentality overall of exactly the situation you just described. Thursday to Monday delays.
Yeah.
Not losing days basically. You lose so many days just chilling because there's no culture of getting stuff done on time, and it never seems like a big deal in the moment.
Yeah.
It never seems like a big deal in the moment, and that's why it's so dangerous and it's such a trap, because in the moment it actually feels nice, feels convenient, because you just let something kick down the road, and then you multiply that over 52 weeks of the year, and all of a sudden you just had 120 things take 30-40% longer than they needed to, and you're not even remotely, and it's kind of reminds me of sports. It's it's the definition of the little things and the details. The details are where teams win games. You win in the little things. You don't win by making more threes. You actually win by out rebounding teams in basketball. Like, you win by not having penalties in football. Like, all the mistakes actually cost you more in the process of winning than the fun stuff, which is going and scoring and producing great client results. And yeah, I mean, dude, there's the Snowflake CEO has that quote. I'm sure you've seen it, Frank Slootman, where he's like, your job as a CEO is to drive the team every single day. You have to bring the intensity every single day. It's just another thing where I even remember when I was more on the employee side of things, I loved chilling. You know what I mean? I loved when things felt less intense at work, it was nicer. And so I do think it ties into a broader conversation around how you motivate people and how do you reward them for adopting your intensity. Because, that's why you have to give equity to people. It's why you have to tie them to bonus structures and stuff like that. Because otherwise, why would I give you, I don't care. You're paying me the same salary every single month or I'm getting fired. I don't think firing is actually the healthiest way to motivate people. I think it's obviously providing the positive incentives. But even then, I mean, you had people that were in the sales roles that, were still not going to be motivated by the commission stuff. It's how do you reconcile that, right? If commission's not enough, then it's probably a culture problem.
Couldn't agree.
The number one things that people need to have to avoid getting automated by AI are they need to be resourceful. They need to be adaptive, they need to be consistent, and they need to be proactive. If you don't do those things, if you're not someone that can, react to a situation, you basically need to be given an assignment and then just figure out how to do it rather than asking your boss 5 questions about how to do it first. Go research stuff, go find potential solutions, try something, fail, and then bring that attempt to the boss. But don't just say, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Because I think that's probably the thing that's going to get taken away. Is anyone that needs your help basically and is not immediate value add is going to get destroyed by chatbots.
Couldn't agree more.
So what were some of your biggest wins?
All right, marketers, we know you love the TLDR, so let's get right to the point. Here are 5 things you can get done faster with Wix Studio. Number 1, you could scale content with dynamic pages and reusable assets. Then number 2, you can integrate with Meta's conversion API, Zapier, Google Ads, and more in just a few seconds. Then number 3, which is a given, and this is A/B tests, where you can create them in days, not weeks, with their intuitive design tools. Then number 4, you could connect to tracking and analytical tools like Semrush and GA4 in seconds, and manage all of your client social media from one dashboard. All right, if you're ready for more, then go to wixstudio.com. Again, that's wixstudio.com.
Biggest wins was, the first one was our pivot. Initially in 2024, we focused on, I had a goal of getting to $3 million run rate, but the focus was media. How are we going to expand our media ecosystem and scale the newsletter, pod, YouTube shows, all of that? We pivoted hard in June, July, because I saw just an open opportunity, and I'd seen this opportunity for a while, and I knew hey, we should do something here because I'm getting the questions, people are asking about it. and we have to just productize this. And we pivoted in June to literally like shifting the entire business where, hey, I don't care about focusing on the media side. And when I say that, what I mean is like monetizing there. Not to say I don't care about newsletter sponsorships or podcast sponsorships. It's more so saying, hey, we're not going to.
And we do care about podcast sponsorships.
It's more so saying, hey, we're going to allocate all of our resources to taking this off the ground and running. And we're going to leverage the revenue that we're getting from this side to make sure that we can take a big stab at this side. And we did that really well, you know, and we didn't hit, again, we pivoted hard. We didn't hit 3 million, but we got pretty, like, we're starting the year close ish. we're like on track to be able to hit that at the end of Q1, right? As of right now. And so having that pivot, by far the biggest thing for me, the biggest win. Now, what I will say is when you pivot, don't put together some strategy, just execute and do whatever you need to do to get things done and to get proof points and data points.
Yeah.
That was like, we didn't sit there and say, okay, we're going to pivot. Here's how. We don't know what we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're trying to do something that is relatively like net new. And so therefore, well, like as we pivoted, we just had to keep iterating and making things better. If we got on a sales call, we didn't really know how to sell it. And then so we had to sit back from every sales call and be like, was that good? Was that not good? What could we have done better? How do we position this better? And you just have to, that is your strategy. Mm-hmm. That is how you get better at it. Now, 6 months later, I can look back at the last 6 months and say, now we put together a strategy.
Yeah.
Now I know what I should do in Q1 to get more leads or to close more people or to shorten the sales cycle. Now I have all those data points, right? And so that was one of the biggest wins was the pivot. Like that for us was instrumental. It also puts us in, and let me explain actually why on the newsletter side, why I wanted to pivot. I still think newsletter and media is extremely valuable. Very valuable when you have something else you can funnel to. The hard part about media is you always have to start from zero. Every single month, we would have months that we did 100, 120K selling the newsletter and IG and stuff like that. If that was January, February starts and you have to sell 100K again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or if
For
you
sure.
sell 80, it's like, well, you just went back, you know, and that's a tough spot to be in. Unless you have a mega sales team. We had one person at 1.2 people doing sales.
I think you were also very specialized in marketing versus, you know, the people that are able to sell like these 3-month, 6-month media commitments are oftentimes news related.
Yeah.
Like those packages really only come from a guaranteed like daily audience of millions, you know, if not like upper hundreds of thousands. And it's just not possible for you to build a marketing newsletter organically to that level, I think.
Now, if we would have had 2 million in cash and we could have got the newsletter to 500,000 people fairly fast with ads, that's maybe a different conversation.
And let's explain that too, because you basically you get into this either pay for performance or pay for awareness camp.
Yeah.
And what you're selling when you have a huge audience, like a 500 to a million plus, is you're selling awareness, versus when you're selling at like 100,000 people in your newsletter, then you're selling basically cost per lead. Like no one's paying you a reasonable rate to just reach 100,000 people that you can build a business on. And so you're actually beholden to your newsletter has to drive conversions for them. And that's where you get into the game of, well, this didn't really do that well for us, so we're just going to cancel in February. And then that's why you have to go get these more people. Because I could just hear it in my head, a lot of people were going to be like, well, why don't you sign me to longer term deals? It's because that's just not what these people are interested in. Yeah. They're testing a bunch of different newsletters, seeing which one's going to drive the best results, and then they're probably going to lock into a longer term agreement there. But even that longer term agreement, it's not going to get you, I mean, it's not going to fund your new wardrobe.
No, and there was such a cap too, right? With the cap only increased if you increased frequency or size.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to even increase size at what we were doing, because we were such a small team, it's like we can't spend $50,000 or $100,000 a month on paid ads, right? And even from the organic side, it's like you have a post go viral and you get 500 subs, you know, and that doesn't increase that much.
No.
So that was that one. And then, so I struggle for the second biggest win. From the agency side, what I'll say is because we niched down and we figured out how to show, hey, this is how our product is delivering X result, and we actually understood our ICP, we've had clients that have gone from what the retainer was to tripling it and 4xing it. That has been a big win, because I think I'm going to have more of that in 2025 where, okay, you gave me this, you told my team to execute this, you showed us exactly how to do it, and we made X amount of money from this, this sprint. What if you take on this, this, and this?
Mm-hmm.
That is another big win. And I don't want to take yours, but I'll just say like one sentence. I think the other one was short form video as a big win.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. That your reason you're able to pivot is because of short form video. You wouldn't have been able to pivot with just your Twitter.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant.
Although I know you started nibble on the back end of your Twitter.
Right.
Last week, I hadn't put out tweets in a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I put out a tweet. Okay. I put out a tweet, and then I responded to somebody else's tweet with like a little game plan. They scheduled a call, and we closed them the next day, and they're a $200-300 million company.
Let me be very clear. Twitter is way better for lead gen for anything. Smarter people are on Twitter, just full stop. Like it is a more intellectual community. As much as people might disagree with that in the current context of like Elon buying it and everything, but it is absolutely where operators are lurking. I've had I had 3 clients last year be full on Twitter anonymous accounts.
Yeah.
DM me and being like, hey, can I book a call? And I'm like, I mean, are you a real human being? And they're like, yeah, I run like this $40 million brand. I just want to work with and so that experience was crazy because half the time I'm denying calls like that. I'm just like auto saying no to the Calendly.
I do that shit all the time.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, see brands on there. I'm like, no.
Hit that similar web, see no traffic. You're done, bro.
You're not.
But yeah, I mean, I think short form video was a 2024 win. I think long form for both of us is probably something we're both looking at quite a bit next year. I mean, yeah, that's the biggest wins this year. We hit $10 million of GMV direct generated for our brands. So that was cool.
That's huge.
And but I don't know, TikTok, I'm currently, shackled by political games that I have literally zero ability to like influence. And so I think platform risk is something that's pretty top of mind for me. Like, what's a big win? Yeah, $1 million in your first year of starting a business. That's sick. But big loss could lose 80% of my revenue in the next 10 days.
13 days or no, what is it, in 17 days?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like checking Supreme Court filings and shit. I mean, so it is what it is. That the biggest win for me though, I would say, is we pivoted into organic brand social execution. You do a lot of the strategy stuff. We do the execution deliverable side. And those 2 clients, Kettle and Fire is one. They're a bone broth company. I've talked about them on here.
Yeah.
I think I'm really excited about what we're going to do for them because we're going to transform their brand into a creator as an account. And I think that case study will carry Nibble into, what is that, like $5 to $10 million range of revenue compared to TikTok Shop was, like I was saying earlier, I'd hit like 150, 200 a month and then really stall out because choppy churn and just bullshit. And so I think like, how do you get stickier? Well, they're not going to cut if there's results based on the videos you're making, they're never cutting that because they're just going to have to do it because they internally can't.
Yeah.
Whereas TikTok Shop is a speculative channel for all these brands. And so if it's not working, they just cut it. It was just an investment. What are you looking forward to?
You see, so you want to hit biggest loss first?
Yeah. It's your biggest loss.
I think this was like more of a personal one as I stepped it because I went from, similar to you, from employee to founder. Even though I've taken, like, you and I are both similar. We're like where we tinker and we have side things and we there's like the entrepreneurial spirit and we've kind of built things where it has that entrepreneurship aspect. But this is probably the first time that we have teams underneath us.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
Where you're a legit entrepreneur. I don't want to say not a legit entrepreneur. You're
I would say legit entrepreneur. Yeah. I mean,
well, like there's quote unquote like solopreneurs, totally fine. You build a big company, but I mean like entrepreneur to the standpoint where we're employing people. Like there's people eat because of us.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean? And so this year, I think I said yes to too many things, and I wasn't as reliable as I should have been. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is like if I told somebody, hey, yes, I'd get that done today, and it's like you just say that kind of out of instinct because when you're a founder, you kind of always feel like you're in God mode.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I more so mean like you just think you could get everything done in a day. And that the reality is you can't. And so I said yes to too many things, even if it was small things. And then they would never take priority over like the big things I knew I still had to do. And so therefore I would sometimes neglect these and then not do them, or they would take weeks. And this was a loss for me because I think at some points I would have been unreliable. And I think now I've shifted that the last 2.5 months where like we built ops more around me. It was like, okay, the ops need to be completely built around Alex. And then I've gotten way better at saying no and then saying, hey, like giving myself that leeway of that is something that's not priority right now. So I'll get it to it in this day. And then being like working with our EA or VAs and like actually having a scheduled date for that to get done and then having it in the roadmap and in the pipeline to make sure those things get done. That was a big loss, but again, learning. But the loss was, I think, over the last year that has affected me, right? Like just having too much on my plate and then having oh fuck, I gotta go do that. And like it just it could affect someone else's job.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
It's true. I mean, you can't overcommit. And it's something I said earlier, every founder is pretty delusional. Yeah. And so that delusion, if not managed properly, will become a significant weakness rather than strength. You have to be insane to want to start a company. Like it genuinely is like you're breaking a mold. And I don't even want to sound like a hardo like guru guy, but like you're just rejecting basically the regular path. And so that's kind of a crazy move initially. And then it's even crazier to think that your idea deserves to exist, you know? And so that becomes a weakness for a lot of people that I see. And I've seen it, right? I mean, to your point, I've been in a startup, zero safety net environment my entire career. I've never been a founder of my own thing that I owned 100%. Yeah. And in my previous experiences, you know, every founder I worked with had really critical flaws that I think caused them to fuck up and destroy their business. And not destroy, but like, you know, hamper it at least. And almost all of it boiled down to not knowing when to like rely on other people / like ask for help / just have a reality check. And so that always turns into a loss because it's going to hurt the employees that you have. It's going to hurt you in the long term. It's going to hurt your personal finance. So totally get that. My biggest loss was just billing. I literally, you know, when I tell people the numbers about like, I mean, I'll just give the Sweat Equity fam a little insight. Like I bill on the first of the month. I pay twice a month to my people. So half the time I'm basically going through 2 pay cycles for my creators and my internal team, which is around $75,000. And I'm waiting on 6 figures of accounts payable and receivable. Yeah. And everyone's like, well, why don't you just put them on auto bill or send them to collections? And that's just a completely irrational way to view anything. Yeah. You know, most of these brands don't want to be on auto bill. That would be like a non-starter for them in the first place. So it's a waste of time to introduce friction into the sales process. And then additionally, sending someone to collections that you want to get the money from is like just impractical in general. And so floating cash has just been like such a huge loss. And it's a big thing that I'm looking at in terms of like, how do you expand in 2025? I think it's selling products with the distribution engine that I've built. So what have I done this year? I've just relentlessly trained a team of, you know, actors, if you will, on how to create content that converts. Yeah. That's what our entire like business operation is. And so now it's like TikTok shop is doing great, whatever. If that keeps going, then I'll keep growing that vertical. I'll keep growing the organic one, but now it's how can I launch products that have, our distribution engine as the back end. And then there's the arbitrage there of the cost too. Cause, obviously my cost is different than what I'm able to charge. And so like, you're getting a better rate for really strong creative that you can put your fingerprints all over. And, what are some different things that I can sell? Like I'm looking at a lot of different SKUs, a lot of different products. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most in 2025 is like switching up my cash conversion cycle from a services, everything's late, to products that I sell where you just get paid up front, hopefully have some recurring revenue based on that. But yeah, it's like services, man. A lot of people think it's like this golden thing, and it's crazy how much. And also brand owners just disrespect the out of you. Like they just think every brand owner is so holier than thou. They think like agency people are parasites, And so there's this attitude of like, well, I don't need to pay for this if it didn't work, which is psychotic.
It's crazy.
It's actually psychotic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's just been one part where I'm like, fuck this shit.
Fuck this up, man.
I'm not getting disrespected by an average ass founder, bro. Like
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like,
Is that what you're looking forward to? You said is diversifying the.
yeah.
That sounds so guru-y. Diversifying the
But
revenue
I mean,
streams, but
yeah,
it's true.
I'm adding new revenue streams, whether that's info, physical, or whatever. That and then YouTube for sure. I'm about to really get after YouTube in a big way.
Yeah.
Shout out Callaway, bro, radicalized the entire friend group. With his success, I feel like I've got all these people being like, "Yo, you seen Callaway?" It's just like he's done such a good job so fast with YouTube that I think it's a really big motivating blueprint to be like, oh, if I could achieve half of that success or a quarter of that success, then I'd be extremely fired up. And, both you and I have, this is the difference between us and Callaway's. Both you and I have direct monetizable things that would funnel from that YouTube growth. So that's probably the other thing I'm looking forward to.
Biggest thing I'm looking forward to as a whole is I'm going to niche down everything I'm talking about because of essentially what we are offering. So this year, in most people that understand and know Marketing Examine, think of us as probably, we talk everything marketing. That's a problem when then you're trying to sell something on the back end because you can't sell everything marketing.
Yeah.
Right. I was on the call with True Classic months ago, and one thing that he said that's just stuck out to me when I mentioned something about Marketing Examine was like, he's like, I'd rather just pay specialists. Like I always rather have specialists. And that was just a big learning for me. And so what I want to focus on and hone in on is like Marketing Examine will own brand social, like the idea of brand social, from like the content we produce to services to tools, all of that. Like it is brand social. And that's the lane I've been in since 2015.
People keep saying we're like the brand social podcast.
Sick.
Yeah.
Good.
It's been fascinating to hear that because I've been asking a lot of our friends who are affiliated with some of these really big business podcasts about like, what do you think we are? And they're like, you guys are the brand social thing. And sorry to interrupt you, but like,
no, that's good.
I think, why I love that is because in my opinion, short form and brand social is eating everything else.
Everything else.
It is becoming such a better investment than paid ad creative, and which is the biggest industry line item in all of consumers facing brands. And so brand social is absolutely the next big investment / like blue ocean for most marketers because it's done so poorly at this point. And the tools have never been better to do it well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think so many people are starting to have that realization of, oh my God, I'm putting in $10 million into Meta for X million impressions. Like, what if I put that into short form? And obviously there's the attention versus conversion aspect, but both can coexist.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
time.
I'm really excited. I want to have the founder of Chubby's, one of the co-founders of Chubby's Shorts on here.
The CMO guy?
Yeah. But he talks about basically what brand marketing does to the customer lifecycle and how it's a lagging indicator, so like the brand investments that you make lead to more SMS, lead to more email, lead to more organic traffic. And the compounding of that is a lower CAC 6 months from now.
Yeah.
And so how do you have a better ROAS? It's by investing 6 months ago in the right channels, which is brand social and affinity and all these things. And it's like his tool that he's building is really cool. It's called Marathon, and it's basically going to be like a measurable tool for all of this to help quantify. It's like a triple whale for brand social.
Bro, we talked about something like this in one of the early episodes.
Yeah.
Where I said, like, I wish there was something that basically tracked affinity.
Yeah.
Right? That like you were able to look at, okay, the person that engages with you the most on social is this person who's been buying from you for X amount of time.
Yeah.
Right? Or X amount of products. But that's one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is niching down and just owning that. The second one is I had an idea for SaaS early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
A month and a half ago, we started tinkering with it and like the idea of it, and like started putting, building some designs and whatnot into Figma, started having conversations with other people that own SaaS, and we started creating V1. I think it's going to complement perfectly what, like this pivot to brand social, or not pivot, like the niche down of brand social. And I think it'll be the same thing. It's going to be hard to build a SaaS, like just getting off the ground and getting into a place where it's actually really making you money takes a while, but I do think it has legs, and I'm excited for that.
You obviously don't want to talk about it right now.
Not the overarching idea.
Okay.
As soon as the cameras come off, yes, I'll tell you.
Cool.
But
damn, BTS.
Yeah.
Tune into his Patreon.
Yeah. But I'm very excited about that. And I mean, we weren't doing 3, but yeah, video content, it's like 3xing the amount of content that I produce. I have my first YouTube like playbook case study that I is done.
Damn, year later.
I know.
Dropping that up.
I know.
I'm paying a YouTube agency, I think. I'm going to come out of pocket like 6 racks a month, basically, for this like end-to-end scripting, ideation, packaging, thumbnails, editing, and just like kind of do that. Forget about.
I feel like you should like tinker first, bro.
Nah,
you just had somebody.
You just said we got to go all in.
I know, but that like you just paid $3K to like this YouTube.
Well, yeah,
guy
fuck
that
that
was
guy.
like,
first of all, if you haven't liked our thumbnails for a month and a half, no, I'm kidding.
I think the thumbnails were good. I think it was
were
everything
fine.
else that like you paid for that.
Well,
Essentially,
I mean, it's a month to month, so it's like whatever. It's like if he doesn't work out, I'll just cancel it. But I think it's a total example of what we just described, though, where it's like run fast, break everything, and then see what happens. Because like I'm not going to do it unless I pay this dude 6 racks. I'll probably publish my first YouTube video in March if I don't pay him. So it's like, how do I publish a video in January? It's like I work with this guy, and he goes, scripts something, packages it, edit it. Like, so yeah, that's kind of, we'll see. Nuts on the chopping block. As always, sweat equity. Yeah, just put your money where your mouth is. That's really maybe that should be our slogan.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
I like it.
I always like stop the cap.
I know, stop the cap's great.
Yeah.
Stop the cap's great. I mean, that's like, you know how MFM had their, what was like post-economic?
Yeah.
Like stop the cap's ours.
Yeah.
And that's something we have to create some hoodies around or something like that.
Yeah.
But shit, I think that was actually a really good episode. I don't know if this is that episode that's going to go viral or anything like that. But
no, but I mean,
I think
let
us
us
for the
like,
people that
let
are
us
down.
know if you like that too, because we're basically experimenting with how much y'all like us.
Yeah, that's exactly what
how much do you want to know about what we're doing on the business side versus sharing those learnings that we're getting from doing it. So leave a comment if you like this one, and please, as always, like, subscribe, helps us grow the channel, and get us to that 2 episodes per week that everyone keeps asking about. But until then, catch y'all next week.
Peace, y'all. Appreciate it.